I, Specialist Thomas Smith, entered active duty in October of 2003, and in the beginning of 2004, I was sent to 3rd Brigade Combat Team. My MOS is 88 Mike. It's a transportation specialist. In August of 2004, I was injured during a training, and I had hurt my back. I continued to seek help for this injury for the next 2 years, and I was told that I would receive a P3 profile in late 2006. I did not actually receive this profile until my medical board proceedings for my psychiatric problems were initiated. On May 22nd of 2007, I went to check on the status of my medical board proceedings, and the caseworker told me that she had found my P3 profile for my back then. The date on this profile was November 27th, 2006. Even with this non-deployable profile, I deployed to the National Training Center and was almost deployed to Iraq. I had already endured this injury during the first deployment. I deployed to Iraq in January of 2005. Once in Kuwait, I was switched from HHC 130 Infantry to Bravo Company 130 Infantry. While in Bravo Company 130 Infantry, my duties were, as an 11 Bravo, to drive Bradley fighting vehicles, foot patrols, and guard duty. During this time, I served in Bakuba, Iraq, and also Ramadi, Iraq. After redeployment to the States, I went through a brief mental health evaluation. I was explained that I might soon be experiencing some adverse reactions to the war, such as nightmares, flashbacks, etc., but that they should go away and that was perfectly natural. In September 2006, I was still experiencing symptoms to include nightmares, flashbacks, excessive anger, irritability, and anxiety problems. These problems were and still continue to affect my daily life. In September 2006, I called the Army One Source hotline to get help. The representative set me up with an appointment with a psychologist in the community. This psychologist diagnosed me with PTSD, an anxiety disorder, and also depression. I continued to see this psychologist over the next few months. I reported to my immediate chain of command that I was seeking help from a psychologist. In January 2007, I was deployed to the National Training Center, where I received no treatment for the month I was there. During my time there, I was not directly involved in the training and yet still had adverse reactions to the sound of explosions in the distance. After redeployment to Fort Benning after the National Training Center, I made an appointment to see my psychologist immediately. During our session, she expressed her concern and referred me to Martin Army Hospital to seek more help. I then gave copies of the letter of concern from my psychologist to my chain of command. During my first visit with a psychologist at Fort Benning at Martin Army Hospital, the psychologist also expressed his concern for my mental health. And the psychologist also diagnosed me with PTSD. After several visits with him, he wrote a letter of recommendation to my chain of command. The letter of recommendation said that I should not be allowed to have a weapon and be left behind for a few months for further treatment before redeploying me to Iraq. My company commander was contacted, and he also visited my psychologist. My psychologist gave him a copy of this letter and expressed his concern for my mental health. My company commander said that he would take the issue to the colonel. I was not told of the colonel's decision until the day before deployment. Just hours away from the manifest on March 9, 2007, I received a phone call from a sergeant in my platoon stating that the colonel said I was deploying and I had to have my bags in at midnight that same night. At this time, I was already on the way to the hospital to have a talk with my psychologist. When I got there and after speaking with him, the decision was made to put me in inpatient care. I was immediately sent to Anchor Hospital in Atlanta due to the fact that there was no room for me at Martin Army. The psychiatrist at Anchor Hospital also diagnosed me with PTSD and depression and an anxiety disorder. I was put on medication at Anchor Hospital upon getting there. I spent almost a week there until a room was made for me at Martin Army Hospital. I was then checked into the mental health floor at Martin Army Hospital, where I was also diagnosed with PTSD and depression. I spent almost another week there and released to outpatient care. I'm still continuing my care and medication, and although it is a daily struggle, I am currently receiving excellent care. And that concludes my statement, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Mr. Bloodworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Lieutenant Representative Davis, and distinguished guests of the committee. I would like to extend my gratitude for being able to come here and share my experiences. My name is Specialist Michael Phillip Bloodworth, and I was deployed to Iraq with Kentucky Army National Guard, Charlie Company, 2nd 123rd Armor. I've been mobilized since November of 2005, where I was trained for 6 months in Camp Shelby. And in March of 2006, my squadron reached its area of operations in Iraq, where our mission was to provide convoy security. During the course of the 11.5 months that I was in country, I logged thousands of miles running convoys in places such as Tikrit and Baghdad. I was also victim to 5 separate IED exposures and multiple small arms ambushes through the course of that time span. On January 16th of 2007, I was injured as a result of an IED blast where I lost consciousness and have since then suffered other symptoms of TBI, post-concussive syndrome, and PTSD. These injuries led to my medevac to Landstuhl, Germany, where my further care continued here at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. I arrived at Walter Reed Army Medical Center President's Day weekend, which is the same time frame when the Washington Post made its story about Walter Reed Army Medical Center. Within the first few days, I was in process into the system and was beginning to receive some care for my traumatic brain injury and PTSD, along with the physical problems with my left knee that I've been having. I've been in the best of hands since my arrival here. Even though care has been slow, the people have been consistently trying to stay with me and make sure that every day, even though it's a struggle, I'm on 2 feet and making it to my appointments and making a recovery. Even through the changing of hands through command at the Walter Reed Army Medical Center with the Warrior Transition Brigade, everything has continued on track. Our new leadership has definitely taken charge and well adapted to the needs of the soldiers and tried to better the system. My treatment at Walter Reed Army Medical Center has been focused first and foremost on my traumatic brain injury, and secondly, my symptoms of PTSD, such as night terrors, flashbacks, and inability to sleep unless on medication. I've been involved with occupational therapy as a treatment form for my TBI, and the current treatment for my PTSD has been seeing a psychiatrist at least twice a month and a steady regimen of sedatives or narcotics to make me sleep at night. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I've been taking my treatment one day at a time, try to remain on track through this difficult time, and through the aid of everyone at the Traumatic Brain Injury Clinic and the aid of my psychiatrist and the support of my platoon sergeants and squad leaders, I am making progress. Progress is slow, but it's better than anything. And I've definitely needed help along the way, but it's getting better. This concludes my opening remarks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.